Hello, crypto friends. Checking in here. Happy Saturday. It's Saturday, May 27th, 8 p.m. Eastern. We'll look at Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin here again. Reminder, this coming Monday on Memorial Day, I'm going to be doing a bit of a webinar at 10 a.m. Eastern live. It will be recorded and on the YouTube channel, but just going to be going over a bit of my trading strategy, looking over GDAX, how to use it, what does it mean, some clues that you can pick up, and answering some questions, going over some charts, all that good stuff. So feel free to tune in and ask any questions if you want. So starting it off with Bitcoin, we're still consolidating. In the video yesterday, I said that I believed that our bottom for the night was in. That was incorrect. And we'll look over some little clues as to what showed us the red flags for the bulls that the bottom was not in. But we are still consolidating with lower highs and lower lows and pulling back. And keeping in mind that we have to keep perspective, right? So 3 days we pulled back very significantly, but we've taken back about 5 days of upside. So take away the last 5 days of the bull run, and we are at all-time highs. So it's not a huge end of the world. We are seeing a higher low is going to be set on this pullback. What is going to happen, in my opinion, is our trusty old equilibrium pattern, where we've seen it in the past here. Here's our breakout, low of consolidation, lower high, higher low, bull break. So we're going to see that same pattern very more likely than not, where we're going to find a bottom. Maybe that bottom has been set. I'm not comfortable enough on the hourly time frame, which is going to be my guide. I'm not comfortable enough to say that. But if this were to be the bottom, let's say, that would be the low of the pullback. We're going to come up. We're going to form a lower high compared to the all-time high. Then we're going to pull back, form a higher low, lower high, and then we'll eventually see a break, just like we have in the past multiple times on these breakouts. So looking at the hourly time frame, the downtrend resistance line is what I am watching in terms of potentially changing this trend. And let's clean up some of these lines here I've been using on smaller patterns. It's this downtrend line, right? So we could see a bull move go all the way up to 2350 and still be rejecting from this level. As of right now, what we have is our bounce off of the lows this morning. There was some really nice trading. Had the nicest gains in the past 3 days this morning just because the bulls were the strongest that they have been on this bounce. The other bounces on the way down have not lasted as long. We had one that was pretty good back here on the 25th. But other than that, they've been only a couple hours of upside, whereas this morning we had about a dozen hours of upside. So what we're looking at right now is the top of what we have hit on this bounce. That is our first resistance level. That's at 2178. We've got our low of this pullback as support down at 1913. And we're trying to form a higher low here. The bulls are trying to form that higher low of 2030. So if the bulls can have this 2030 be a base of support, and then they can come up and break the high we've seen on this bounce so far of 2178, those are the first signals that I'm looking for a potential trend change. That won't mean that the trend has changed because we still have downtrend resistance and a lot of other resistance levels to look at, but that will be step number one. If we cannot form a higher low and a higher high, then the bulls don't have any hope. So that's their hope right now. Have to pull through and overnight and into the night break 2178 to try and turn things around. After that, we have a couple resistances up here. We had a bounce attempt at 2353, and the high of that bounce attempt was up at 2388. So plenty of resistance levels to be looking at. Every bounce attempt that was rejected on the way down is a resistance level to be watching on the way back up. But as of right now, the bulls are not proving themselves enough for me to be confident that our bottom, to say that our bottom is in just yet. Again, there's really nice gains to be made, and if you are looking for longer term positions, again, if you're looking long and that's your mindset, these videos really, you get some idea of the daily chart, that's nice, but you're not concerned with the hourly time frame. The time frame of your trade dictates what time frame you're looking at on the charts. So if you're long and you're looking a year plus out, you're only looking at the daily and the weekly charts. The hourly chart doesn't mean anything to you. If you're shorter term and you're looking to swing for a couple weeks, you're looking at the daily, weekly, and hourly chart. And of course, if you're day trading, you're looking at the 5-minute, the hourly, the daily, and so on and so forth. So the time frame of your trade dictates what you're looking at. So if I'm planning on going long for a year, I don't want to be looking at this hourly chart and maybe being influenced in my decision. You want to have your trade entry, exit, and stop loss level all determined before you ever make a trade. And that really has you planned out for all scenarios and to eliminate emotion from your decision making. So you should have a level where you say, if it hits this, I want out. You should have a potential goal where if it hits this level, I'll take my profit. And you should obviously have your entry point based, ideally, something around technical analysis. So if you are looking for re-entry, then we are still patient. And that being said, if you are looking for re-entry for a longer term position, a swing position, then you could make an entry on these dumps and just set your stop loss to break even. If you see the bounce heading in your favor and you're profitable, You can set your stop loss to break even, and worst case scenario, you're either in near the bottom or you get stopped out, you take a step back, you reassess the situation. It's not like it's going to take off 20%, 2 hours after you get stopped out. Just reestablish a new game plan after that happens. So checking in on some shorter term time frames, actually we just got the hourly, so let's move on to Ethereum. So Ethereum's the same thing. I have been noticing a little bit of difference, and of course when you're staring at these 5-minute charts all day and comparing them to each other, we know that Bitcoin has been the leader, but on this most recent bounce that bottomed out this morning, Ethereum has been a bit stronger on this recovery, and I've noticed some small details showing that just on the shorter term time frames, but you can see it here just on the daily chart comparing the two, where you see the lower wick compared to the real body of the candlestick. So that's the open of the day, that's the low of the day, and that's where we currently stand, the low of that red real body. And you look at Ethereum, and you can see the bulls have bought a significant more amount of the dip coming off the low. That's a stronger bounce. And I have been noticing on the shorter term time frames that is the case as well, where if I look at the 5-minute time frame, I can see that we're making some more significant moves than we are for Bitcoin. So let's just see if we can point some out right now. So right now, Ethereum is testing, I should have got in on that move. Making the videos, oh well. So Ethereum is testing resistance 160, and that resistance is from 420 today. And let's look at where Bitcoin is at compared to 420 today. So back at 420 today, Bitcoin was up here. Bitcoin was up at 2113, and we are currently a bit below that. So there's a difference right there where we've already broken 2 resistance levels that Bitcoin has not broken yet. So those are just little minute differences that tell me that the bulls are buying this dip a bit more significantly on Ethereum. So Ethereum right now, we're looking at that resistance of 160, and then after that I'd be looking up at 163.77. We've established some support levels down here just above 154, so that's a key support in the short term. And let's look at the daily chart again, just like we did Ethereum. So again, the lower wick with bulls buying the dip, giving back about 5 days of downside or of upside with just this pullback we've seen. But again, that lower wick, I see that, and I'm much more confident in saying that our bottom is in on Ethereum for now. Now, I don't know how we're going to break from the equilibrium patterns, but I know that's what's most likely to form. So again, our low, we're going to bounce up. We're going to set a lower high compared to the all-time high. We're going to pull back and set a higher low compared to this recent low. So this candlestick makes me much more confident than Bitcoin's daily candlestick, where the real body is much bigger. So Ethereum this morning, I was trading Ethereum. There was some really nice gains to be had, and just being short term with it again, because we are now in a different trend overall on the hourly time frame where we're seeing lower highs and lower lows. It's not as easy to just buy in and let it ride. So you have to be more cautious because we're not sure how long the strength of the bulls are going to last on these bounces. So we look at the hourly time frame, we've got that same downtrend resistance that's on Bitcoin, and for right now, if Ethereum were to head up to that level, that would be at about 170. So in terms of the same levels that we're looking at on support and resistance, I've got a support down here. The lowest price we hit, 115.67. We had a lot of people in the chat room that had their bids already placed overnight. They just went to bed in the low 120s, and they woke up to some nice profit. We had people waking up to 20-25% profit without having to do anything but place their bids before they went to bed. So our higher low right now is being set. That's our higher low right there, 147.31. The bulls want to see that level hold all night to have that be the higher low. And then to get a higher high, you need to break that resistance level, which is the high of this move so far, and that's at 167. So that's the channel we're currently in, 147 to 167. We've got downtrend resistance. If we break 167 and do see that continuation, I am even more comfortable saying that the bottom is in for now. We've got resistance of 172 and 179 after that. So nice recovery for the bulls. If I were forced to choose one of these names that I had to go long in for, let's say, a few days, few weeks, it would be Ethereum because of those little divergences I've seen today from Bitcoin showing me more strength. And there was one that I was watching specifically where someone was loading up, and I saw Bitcoin make a key support break on the 5-minute time frame, and it dumped down, and I'll try and find where that was at. Let's see here. It was right here back in this period, back at around 1 and 2, where we saw a significant pullback here, and that's where it happened right there. We broke this low, so we had a top, a low, lower high, and then a lower low. And we look at Ethereum on the 5-minute time frame at that same point in time, and we had our low, or excuse me, our high, our low, lower high, higher low. We did not break that support. And I saw when Bitcoin was breaking, and I got a little concerned. I believe I was in a position right at that point looking for this move, but we held on, and it was a buyer showed up, and he put in 200 ETH at, I believe it was 160. It got filled. They threw up another 200 at 160. It got filled. They threw up another 200 at 160. It got filled. So they were defending support and loading up while Bitcoin was breaking its support, and that action, that buyer coming in and keep throwing up those bids, kept this higher low and kept the bulls in control a bit longer. So the hourly time frame, we've got those downtrend resistance lines. Now let's look at Litecoin. And just to touch back on a question, in the last video I answered a question, or maybe not the last one, but a few videos ago, where we were on our way up and we hadn't started pulling back yet, and someone asked me, you know, if you weren't trading and jumping in and out, would you be making more money? And I said, yes, if I had not been trading, I would be up more if I just didn't touch it at that point in time. Now that we're pulling back, it's a completely different scenario. I'm cash, I'm making profit on the way down, and today when I played this bounce this morning, I was able to have 33% more Ethereum than I've ever had before, and that's because I was going cash at the top and then being able to buy in much, much cheaper down at the bottom. So again, I'm not holding anything right now. I'm making this video as I am in cash, still sticking with the same game plan, but eyeing Ethereum for a move back up into the upper 100s to set a lower high and start forming this longer-term equilibrium pattern. Litecoin is very clearly weaker than these other two. And it's not the first time this has happened. We were very clearly weaker after the SegWit pullback, where we broke to a lower low. So the pullback before the SegWit top, we had a support established at 2267. Breaking that level made a lower low. And we didn't see Bitcoin and Litecoin do that to get that lower low. So that right there makes you take a step back in terms of being a bullish leader. It's very clear that Litecoin is the weakest of the three. And here again, we see the same thing. So we had a low down here back on May 22nd, and we have broken that level again. So we pull back significantly. Again, there's still some trading opportunity there. There's gains to be had, absolutely. Personally, I'm no longer trading Litecoin. If I were to tally up all of my trades at this point, I believe that it would be more of my losers would be in Litecoin. And again, I keep those losers small and I bail really quickly, but I think more of them would be in Litecoin. It's a little bit less liquid. It's a little bit more difficult to move into decent sized positions and to move out quickly, whereas with Ethereum and Bitcoin, you have enough volume that it's just in and out really quick. And this morning with Ethereum, there was a wide bid and ask spread, and I'll go over this more in depth in the webinar on Monday, but it was really easy to buy on the bid and then literally 2 minutes later just sell it on the ask for $3 more and just keep locking in a few hundred dollars and just do that over and over. And it was a really ideal trading scenario with Ethereum. And I'm just not liking Litecoin anymore. So I have been trading it, but I'm not going to anymore. It's going to stick to Ethereum and Bitcoin. I've also started to move some profits around. I'm moving some profits into some of the altcoins. Admittedly, I haven't done a ton of research. I have some friends that have done some more research and piggybacking off of them a little bit, starting to get into that research. But looking at Golem, looking at Strat, just putting some profits in there. And, you know, if you hit the next one, that's going to be the next winner in terms of popularity and market sentiment, then it's obviously going to be nice gains to be had. And then I'm going to be moving profits into the Canadian MJ sector eventually, waiting for the trend to change there. I'll be all over that. And lots of fun moving things around, seeing what's going to run next. So let's look at Litecoin on the hourly, get the same kind of levels here that we have for the other two. The Litecoin has multiple downtrend resistance lines in terms of severity of the steepness that we could draw. Just because we've seen a couple little lower highs, I think we have one more lower high than we have there on Bitcoin and Ethereum. But either way, we're not near breaking those levels. Support right now, we're looking down at the low, just like we are on the other names. That's down at 1908. High of the bounce is up here. That's at 25, so it's really nice gains, over 25%. But most of these names have seen that 25%. So our higher low is now established at 2175. So our range is 2175 to 25. And we'll see if the bulls can get that higher high and try and follow through. And again, looking at the daily candlestick and comparing the size of the wicks, which show us the bulls buying the dip, it's a pretty solid wick. It's a smaller real body, more of a lower wick compared to Bitcoin. So I would say Bitcoin on the daily time frame, comparatively, has seen the least amount of buying of the dip with the size of that wick currently. In terms of volume, you see these big red candlesticks, and you never want to see increasing bear volume on the way down, but you always want to look at the candlestick shape when you are judging that. And you can see that the long lower wicks, you know that a lot of this volume in there is bull buying because that wick shows bulls buying the dip. So you can't just look at the red candlestick and say, uh-oh, we have increasing bear volume, because a lot of that does belong to the bulls. So that's what we've got heading into tonight. Need to get that higher high, breaking the high of this bounce. And if that does occur, the odds that our bottom is in for now increase very, very significantly. And again, technical analysis doesn't tell us what is going to happen. It tells us what is most likely to happen. So in my head, what I'm always calculating is when I see certain developments take place, it's shifting the percentages of what's going to happen. And obviously I'm not actually getting numbers in my head, but just knowing what makes things more likely, what makes things less likely. So let's go to this bounce from last night where I said that I felt our bottom for the night was in. And that was because of the magnitude of the bounce that we had seen from that. And let's see where that was. That was back here at about in the afternoon, 3 or 4. So I said I felt the bottom was in because of the volume and the strength behind the bounce. And it was very quickly shown that that was not the case. And it was this support right here. So we had our same equilibrium pattern, and it made a bear break. So we had our high of the bounce, our low of the first pullback, lower high, higher low, lower high, bear break. So as soon as this bear break occurred, as soon as this little support broke, or if you wanted to give it a little bit more wiggle room, you're using this level. That's at 165. As soon as 165 broke, that's your bear signal. Look at the volume. Very clearly, traders recognize this, all right? There's traders all over this, and you see volume accompanying these pattern breaks as people recognize them. So it was a clear bear break. As soon as 165 broke, bear volume poured in, and we dumped down in 15 minutes. We went from 165 to 147. So as soon as the equilibrium broke bearish, that made us think, uh-oh, okay, our bottom might not be in now, and we pulled all the way back, almost broke it, and then by the end of the night, obviously, we dumped down to lower lows. So at this point, we have cooled off very significantly. I know a lot of technical analysts use Fibonacci retracements, and they don't really resonate as much with me. I do like the retracements much better than the extensions, but I personally don't use them. I like looking at previous price history. And that's another thing. Whenever I'm trading stocks, I'm always using moving averages, 20-period moving average, exponential moving average. I am not using them at all for this space. And I don't find them resonating with the price action, and I don't need them. I'm using the main 3 things that I'm using to trade are RSI, volume, and previous price action. And again, I'm going to go over all this more in depth on the webinar. So I appreciate you watching. I'll see you then on Monday. And if not, check it out recorded here on the YouTube channel. Thanks again. Have a great weekend.